You're driving a lonely highway at night, gaslight on, and the next town ahead has one piece of advice from the people who live there. Don't stop. Not for snacks, not for photos, not even for gas. We're told to fear big cities. We picture danger with skyscrapers, sirens, and flashing lights. But what if some of the most dangerous places in America don't have skylines? Just Dollar Generals, shuttered mills, and a single flickering gas station. Tonight, we're going into 10 small U.S. towns where the crime rates punch way above their population. And locals literally warn you to keep driving. Before we start the countdown, keep this in mind. The scariest thing about these towns isn't just the numbers, it's the contradiction. Postcard charm on the surface. Gunshots, sirens, and don't stop after dark in the group chats. Let's hit the road. Number 10, Bogalusa, Louisiana. The kind of place where the trees whisper, the pavement cracks, and the murder rate makes New Orleans look like Disneyland. Just under 11,000 people, but a violent crime rate 3 times the national average and a homicide problem so bad, national papers have called it a war zone in disguise. You've got gang beef, turf wars, generational poverty, and a police department that's outnumbered, underfunded, and tangled in small-town politics. Locals have a saying that sums it up. We don't call 911 here, we call family. It's meant as dark humor. It lands more like a warning. Drive through at dusk and it almost looks normal. Old houses, a water tower, a couple of gas stations. You slow down when you see the pumps, then remember the nickname some residents use, Body Lusa. You don't stop. You don't even make eye contact. You just keep rolling until the town is in your rear view. Number 9, Stillwell, Oklahoma. On paper, it's the strawberry capital of the world. In reality, the only thing growing faster than the fruit is the violent crime. Fewer than 4,000 people. Violent crime over 5 times the U.S. average. Poverty above 40%. One of the poorest counties in the state, loaded with tribal land tension, broken promises, and meth routes running straight through town. Stillwell markets itself with festivals and cute slogans. Locals market it very differently. Don't stop at that gas station by the highway. Don't even slow down. Drive through on a sunny afternoon and it's all porches, flags, and lazy dogs. Look closer and you'll realize that house with the rose bushes had 2 shootings in the last year. That's the small-town paradox. The brochure screams family-friendly. The stats whisper, keep driving. Number 8, Alexandria, Louisiana. Oak-lined streets, old courthouses, that sticky southern heat that makes everything look slow and sleepy. And underneath, a violent crime rate nearly 4 times the national average. Break-ins, drive-bys, robberies, homicides. Not random blips, but a pattern powered by long-term poverty, underfunded services, and a reputation for corruption in local politics. Ask people who grew up there and you'll hear the same thing. It's worse than it used to be. And it wasn't great back then either. In Alexandria, sirens are background noise. You learn which streets are fine and which gas stations are technically open but functionally abandoned. You pull off the highway at dusk, see a flickering open sign, and suddenly your gut says, keep the engine running. If you pump fast. Number 7, Hamtramck, Michigan. One tiny square mile completely surrounded by Detroit. Think of it like a geopolitical matryoshka doll. Detroit on the outside, Hamtramck jammed in the middle. About 28,000 people packed into a couple of square miles. One of the densest places in the state, and one of the most culturally diverse. Polish legacy spots, Yemeni bakeries, Bangladeshi groceries, pierogi, kebabs, prayer calls, and violent crime more than double the national average. Here, density is the keyword. When you compress poverty, underemployment, cultural friction, and underfunded local services into such a small space, problems don't spread out, they collide. Residents joke that in Hamtramck, parking and survival share the same skill set. Circling, scanning, negotiating, always staying aware. On paper, the city is safer than some parts of Detroit. But because there's less space and fewer exits, when something pops off, you're close whether you want to be or not. Number 6. Muskegon Heights, Michigan. What happens when a factory town gets abandoned, but the fallout stays? About 10,000 people, wedged next to beautiful Lake Michigan beaches and vacation towns that show up on postcards. From the outside, it looks like spillover. From the inside, it's one of the most violent places per capita in the state. Factories closed, jobs vanished. The tax base evaporated. In came emergency state management, budget cuts, defunded schools, gutted public services, and a police presence that shrank while the problems grew. Residents didn't vote for any of that. They just live with the aftermath. Rents are low, sure. So is the margin for error. By winter, lake-effect snow piles up. Streetlights flicker half-heartedly, and the soundtrack is tires on ice and distant sirens. Cheap housing is the bait. The cost is constant stress, broken windows, and feeling like you live in permanent survival mode. These towns all teach you the same uncomfortable lesson. Danger doesn't always look dramatic from the outside. It looks like a faded motel sign, a half-empty strip mall, a bored clerk behind bulletproof glass, a cop car that circles the same 3 blocks on repeat. If you only trust your eyes, you'll miss it. If you listen to the way people behave, which streets they avoid, which gas stations they only use in daylight, which bars they call trouble, you start to see the invisible map locals are following. In big cities, you expect to be on guard. In places like this, your brain relaxes because there's no skyline, no traffic, no obvious chaos. That's why so many travelers get blindsided. They think, it's just a small town, what could happen? And they forget that per person, per block, per night, some of these tiny dots on the map are statistically rougher than the nearest metropolis. The trick is to borrow local instincts even if you're just passing through. Stay on main roads, move with a purpose, and never assume quiet means safe. Number 5. Pine Bluff, Arkansas. On a brochure, it's all scenic river views, green parks, and small-town charm. In the data, it's a violent crime rate nearly 5 times the national average, and property crime off the charts for a town its size. Deindustrialization, corporate flight, shrinking tax revenue. It's the classic American decline story. Except here, locals joke that the sirens are the real nightlife. Tourism copy says historic downtown. Locals know that behind some of those historic facades are vacant lots, shells of buildings, and memories of drive-bys nobody from the Chamber of Commerce will bring up. At sunset, the Arkansas River looks beautiful. Kids ride bikes, the breeze is warm, and then the familiar wail of sirens cuts through the scene. Pine Bluff is where you feel that weird mix of this is lovely and I should probably be heading back before dark. Number 4. Eloy, Arizona, skydiving capital of the world. If you've ever seen videos of massive formation jumps over the desert, there's a good chance they were filmed near here. By day, wide open skies, golf courses, desert beauty. By the numbers, a violent crime risk higher than many bigger US cities and property crime that regularly beats Arizona's state averages. Locals will tell you North Eloy feels better. Other parts? Not so much after dark. It's the kind of town where the billboards scream, "Jump here," for tourists. But the quiet, unspoken advice from people who live there is, don't linger at certain gas stations. Don't leave stuff in your car. Don't assume quiet means safe. You pull off between Phoenix and Tucson for fuel, step out into that beautiful desert air, and feel that itch between your shoulder blades that says, fill up, get in, go. Number 3. Marksville, Louisiana. On the surface, a classic courthouse square town. Fewer than 5,000 residents, church bells, a main street that looks frozen in time. But per capita, the violent crime rate routinely triples or quadruples the national average. What's behind it? Isolation, economic stagnation, thin job markets, and a long history of strained relationships between residents and law enforcement, especially after a high-profile police shooting put the town in national headlines. People here don't dial the police first. They call family or handle things quietly. It's not that violence happens on every corner. It's that you never quite know where the line is. And everyone local already does. You walk through the square at dusk, cicadas buzzing, the air warm. At first, it feels peaceful. Then you realize how fast the streets empty out after dark, and you understand. The quiet is intentional. Number 2. Taos, New Mexico. The entry that blows up everyone's stereotypes. Taos is supposed to be the dream. Adobe houses glowing at sunset, mountains, artists, spiritual retreats. People move here for peace. But per capita, Taos has one of the highest violent and property crime rates in the region. Tourism brings money. That money doesn't flow evenly. You get second homes and short-term rentals sitting next to families stretching every paycheck. High rents, low wages, seasonal work, drugs, theft, assault, and domestic violence riding in the slipstream of that tension. Ask locals and they'll casually drop lines like, "Don't leave anything in your car," and "Yeah, don't walk there at night." The isolation makes it weirder. If something goes wrong, help is far, response times stretch, and lots of smaller crimes go unreported because people feel like it won't matter. Standing under that insane night sky full of stars, it's easy to think you've found paradise. Walk a little too far down the wrong road at the wrong time and it doesn't feel like paradise anymore. It feels like you're very, very alone. The other thing nobody tells you about these towns is how normal they can feel, right up until they don't. You can drive through at noon, see a mom pushing a stroller, kids on bikes, a guy mowing his lawn, and think, people exaggerate, this looks fine. And for a lot of locals, that's the trap. Danger here isn't cinematic, it's situational. It shows up at 1 a.m. outside the only bar still open, or behind that one gas station everyone in town knows not to use, or in the gap between the last cop car driving by and the next one starting shift. If you ever do have to stop in a place that makes your gut feel off, treat it like a tactical pit stop, not a sightseeing break. Park near the door, under lights. Lock the car even if you're just running in. Don't stand around scrolling your phone at the pump. Pump, pay, leave. If the vibe in the store feels tense, loud arguing, people staring you down, staff looking uncomfortable, you don't argue with your instincts, you leave. You're not there to prove you're brave. You're there to get home. Number 1. Miami, Arizona. Not that Miami. This one's a tiny copper mining town in Gila County, with around 1,500 residents squeezed into less than a square mile. On Instagram, it's all rusty charm, hillside homes, and retro signs. In reality, the violent crime rate and cost of crime per resident cite way above state and national norms. Median home values are low, poverty is high, and the main drag that looks like a movie set has seen more than its share of assaults and robberies. It's not danger hiding in back alleys. It's built right into the daily rhythm. Locals say things like, "Great sunsets, just don't hang around after dark." Forums and crime maps show blocks that are perfectly fine with a coffee in hand at noon, and absolutely not where you want to be walking alone at 11 p.m. Here's the pattern across all 10 of these towns. They're not monsters in the dark. They're places hollowed out by economic collapse, bad policy, drug traffic, neglect, or some toxic mix of all of the above. The crime isn't random. It's what grows in the cracks when jobs, trust, and basic safety nets disappear. So if you're road tripping across the US, this isn't about fear-mongering. It's about situational awareness. The prettiest gas station at golden hour might be sitting in a town locals drive around, not through. The quietest main street might be empty for a reason. Next time your GPS routes you through a cute small town you've never heard of, don't panic, but don't be naive either. Check recent crime, listen to local advice, trust your gut when the vibes feel off, and remember, danger doesn't always come with a skyline. If you want a part 2 where we dig into nice tourist towns with surprisingly ugly crime stats, let me know in the comments. Tell me which of these 10 shocked you the most and whether you'd still stop for gas there if the tank was low. Hit like, share this with someone planning a big American road trip, and subscribe with notifications on. Because in a country this big, knowing where not to stop is just as important as knowing where to go.